Welcome to Between Over and Next with your hosts, Holli and Robert, a happily married couple who explore the space between what was, what is, and what's to come. From career changes to navigating life's uncertainties, this dynamic duo will empower you to live your happiest life at every age and stage. So, get ready because your journey with Holli and Robert starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Between Over and Next. Hi, Holli.
Hi, Robert. I love having friends that are talented.
It's one of my prerequisites for friends.
And today's guest is no exception.
Of course.
Today, you will get to meet our friend, Zachary, who is a talented stylist, a prop stylist, a food stylist, a fashion stylist. She is a content creator, an editor, the photographer, the collector. She really inspires me and has had a wonderful career that led her into entrepreneurship.
I think that there are people who are born to be entrepreneurs, and there are people who learn to be entrepreneurs. And I would put Robin in the category of being born an entrepreneur. It's much clearer, certainly, I think, for a lot of people when they look back on their careers. Even though they may have been in and out of the corporate world, at heart, they're entrepreneurs because they're either got a side hustle going on or they immediately transition, right? They know they're next. They're able to move on, and it's only because of what they've accumulated, what they've gained along the way and their travels. And it's clear when you'll get to meet Robin, she'll reveal all of those things that led her to what she's doing now. So we would like to introduce you to our friend and colleague, Robin Zachary.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Holli and Robert.
So nice to have you here. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I used to love when we were working together.
Yeah,
it
was a lot of fun. We'll be reminiscing a bit today.
Definitely. That was a high point. Definitely.
It was.
Well, what's really cool is I know Robin since high school, growing up in Long Island and going to Lawrence High School. And then we reconnected.
What were you called? Lawrence High School Watts. What
Golden Tornadoes, right?
Yep.
What's really cool is about 25 years later, we reconnected serendipitously in an elevator in New York City, going up to an event called Ladies Who Launch.
That's right.
Why were you there, Robin?
It looked interesting. It looked exciting. I wanted to have my own business. I had a business idea. I heard about it and was just into going to networking events at the time. And well, it paid off. I reconnected with you. So
well, the feelings are mutual. Robert always says there's no coincidences. And I really do believe that was the beginning of deepening our friendship and our respect in an industry that we were so highly involved in, meaning the wedding world.
Right.
So, because at that time we were launching Wedding Podcast Network. So, yes, Ladies Who Launch was an amazing incubator. It brought amazing talents and women together to explore their next big thing. And it's really cool because I've seen so many success stories.
Oh, absolutely.
That have happened since that time. And I'm excited to share your success story.
Thank you. I mean, it took a little while. I didn't do it right away, but it was all in there. It was all gelling. Just took some time.
You went to Binghamton University. Did you know what you wanted to be after you graduated college?
I knew I was going to be studying art. I was an art major, and it wasn't exactly the most helpful as far as career planning because it was fine arts. It's not the easiest thing to make a career in fine arts, but I did work for the school newspaper, which was called Pipe Dream, and that's where I learned about layout and typesetting and news and working with editors and being a designer. And that was, I think, my most important bit of background on the way to my career, because when I graduated Binghamton, I went right into working for magazines, and it was a good stepping stone job. Actually got paid too to learn how to do all that. So
Well, those types of majors, when you talk to kids who are thinking about careers, like those types of majors are great because you can apply that in any industry, right? Every industry in business requires those types of skills at some point.
this was pre-computer, though. The art major did not teach anything about computer skills. I think jumping onto the extracurricular of working for a school paper gave me the whole feeling of what it's like to be part of a newsroom.
Right, hands on, where you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to get that elsewhere.
Tell us a little bit about some of the first jobs that you worked at.
I kind of scraped my way around New York City of getting different freelance and full-time jobs. Most of the magazines no longer exist. I worked with beauty magazines, fitness, babies, teen, all kinds of different topics until I would say Twist magazine for Bauer Publishing was the first like big creative director job that I got. I had been freelancing at YM, and at the time, teen magazines were popping up all over the place. Bauer magazine was starting a teen magazine. I was hired by the person who was going to be editor in chief, Lisa Lombardi. I met her at YM, and then we were the launch team for Twist magazine. And actually, it didn't even have a name yet. We went through thousands of names and tested them all, and then we went through logos. So I designed the original logo. It was tough working for a startup magazine. I had done that before, years before. I worked for Prima magazine, which was a startup that never actually came out. But what was great about it is that I met Diane Forden, who became the editor-in-chief of Bridal Guide. So when I was ready to leave Twist, it was just like a no-brainer. I went to interview for Bridal Guide. It was just kind of by chance, and she already knew me and knew she liked me, and it was just a perfect fit. I was at Twist for maybe about a year and a half, and then went to Bridal Guide.
We love Diane, and that was in sync with what we were doing at the time. Tell us everything about your experience at Bridal.
It was really an exciting big job. At the time, bridal magazines were like this thick. They were like 500 pages, every month. So a lot of it was ads, but there was so much editorial. So I got exposed to not only fashion, beauty, home decor, food, reception design, flowers, travel.
Million things, because
million
that's what
topics.
Bridal was. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I always had a thing for fashion. When I was little, I really wanted to work in fashion. Like my family, they were all garment center people. So when I was little, I designed things and told my father to make these designs when I was like 5 years old. And so to me, getting closer and closer to fashion was my goal. So in any of the magazines, if I did a maternity magazine, I loved doing the fashion for maternity. If I was doing a teen magazine, I loved doing the teen fashion, or exercise gear for fitness magazines. So I went from Twist, which had a lot of fashion, had a lot of beauty, and then went to Bridal Guide, and the fashion was more upscale, more elegant. It was just kind of where I wanted to be. I realized I don't really want to work for a big name fashion magazine. I like the vibe in the bridal world. At the time, it was a lot less cutthroat, and it was pretty. I mean, things still had a ways to go. I think over the years, the bridal gowns and the fashion became much, much more high-end and couture. In the beginning, maybe not so much, but it evolved to a place where it was very, very exciting. It's just an evening gown that you wear on your wedding day. That was the part I loved. I loved doing the fashion shoots. We did a lot of traveling around the country or to the Caribbean to do shoots in locations. We set up receptions in beautiful hotels, fake receptions for editorial for the magazine. We did a lot of product reviews. The beauty stories were wonderful. We really got to work with some great talent in the hair, makeup, and fashion world. So that was pretty exciting.
I'm just thinking about providing all of that for the consumer. The bride is in such a frenzy to get information. Like some people may think like, oh, a 500 or 600, even 1,000-page bridal magazine, how could that even exist? These brides were buying every single one of those magazines and leafing through every single page in every single one of those magazines. And it became I would think at times almost a challenge to keep up with that appetite of information because you guys at the magazines, that was the only place to get information
That's
about
right.
bridal. There was no other resource. That was it.
It was pre-internet and pre-website, pre-blog, the bridal blogs. They were just starting in the early 2000s to come up and become more prominent, but print was still the main thing, and every big company had a bridal magazine. So,
Well,
yes, that was why they were so thick, and that's why there were so many ads, and it was big business.
tell us about when you styled the first cover.
It was a whole big thing. Lots of people there. They had been working with the same photographer for a long time. So when I came in, I just kind of went with the way they did things. That's the best way to learn, is like not to turn everything upside down as soon as you get somewhere. So there was a while where I was just following their whole routine and their whole pattern. There was lots of stylists there. There was a fashion stylist, the fashion editor, there was hair, makeup. The owners of the company were there. The photographer had his assistant and me. It was a big production, and flowers, of course. We worked with the biggest floral designers in the city at the time that brought bouquets for the cover. And also we did 3 different models. So every time there was a cover shoot, they booked 3 models and one would make the cover. They always shot 2 backups in case one didn't work out or look right in the gown. And the gown was always something that was sponsored by one of the bridal designers. So they pretty much bought the cover, I think. That's
With
how
for
it,
tremendous exposure. This is
yes,
something that you fight for shelf space. Where it is it down below? Is it behind something else? And those
yeah,
covers are what draws those hands to grab them off the
right.
shelf.
As time went on, I tried to make new suggestions and things evolved, and we tried new photographers and we tried different colored backgrounds, and
More words on the cover, less words on the cover.
there were a lot of people involved in a cover. You could design it 1,000 times until you get it the way they want it, and sometimes you don't even know why, but they want to emphasize certain things about what's going to be on the inside. They would sell ads based on the editorial, so they wanted to play up certain stories.
Robin, you're a lifelong New Yorker. You have a passion for fashion. You are a very talented creative, and you have styled and directed hundreds of fashion and still life shoots around the world. What is the inspiration behind your skills, your talent, your passion to create such beautiful imagery?
The inspiration comes from everywhere, attending those fashion shows, attending not only bridal market, but fashion week twice a year, just getting around to all the high-end stores and the department stores and boutiques, and then also buying fashion magazines from all around the world, seeing what's going on. I have to look back because I don't really do that much with fashion anymore, because I reached a pinnacle of sorts and then decided to go in different directions after a while. Looking back, it was exciting and it was fun. I had a file cabinet of just ideas that was 6-7 feet long, of just folders of different location ideas and different story ideas for organizing stories. We called them swipes. You tear something out of a magazine or a catalog or something that you saw, and you just need to stay aware. You just have to keep your eyes open. You go to museums. New York City has so many fashion exhibits. The inspiration comes from everywhere.
You mentioned the blogs. It did come on the scene in the 2000s, the
Right.
the power of the blog. And at the same time is when we came on the scene with Wedding Podcast Network and the beginnings of podcasting.
That's
So,
why I wore this shirt. I don't know
yep,
if you could see this Wedding
yep.
Podcast Network shirt.
It really gave us a lot of joy to work with you and to cover bridal market with you. And I remember one really special experience where we co-hosted on our beauty show,
Yes, I
Bridal
love that.
Beauty, right? We went to the makeup
Covered the
show.
makeup show.
Beauty is part of this world of weddings and brides. It was a fun episode to do together. We'll include a link to that in the show notes. I remember us coordinating our bridal market schedules to go
Yes.
to cover as many runway shows as possible, to do it together. And it was the energy between all 3 of us was powerful.
Right. It was fun driving around with you guys. You bring your car into the city, and didn't you have, was it a
PT
Convertible.
Cruiser convertible.
Convertible, right? We're tooling
Right.
around the city in your convertible and like looking for parking everywhere, which is like impossible, but somehow
Yep.
you did it. Not only was my team there from Bridal Guide, but I kind of hung out with you because they had different things to cover. At the time, they were making the selections on the dresses. I was going just for inspiration. I didn't make
Right.
any calls on like, oh, I want this and that. But later on, when I started freelancing, I was picking dresses and going for the reason of me being there to see all the collections, to observe the trends, and then formulate stories when I was doing Weddings by the Ritz-Carlton magazine
Mhm.
as a freelancer.
We're fortunate in that, in terms of what you did and how you did it, you really went from the analog world of print and layout and typeset and all that to the digital space, right?
Yeah.
When we started covering bridal market, it was back when we caught the end of the era of when they would take over one of the grand dames of hotels, the Waldorf Astoria, and they would empty the hotel rooms along 4 or 5 floors, and you would go from room to room, and
Right.
each would be set up in the rooms. It was such an eye-opener for me to see how this was done, and of course, that changed, and then they all went to different hotels, and it would cause us to need to go all over the city, none of which was
Right.
conveniently located next door to where we just were, to now putting yourself in that position that you held at that time. If you were there now, how different would that process be?
They did video presentations digital during the pandemic just to keep things going. It's certainly not the same as being there. We went to so many elegant events, didn't we, where they served champagne and little bites. Everybody was there getting their seats in
Right.
the
Giveaways, there would be gifts on
We
the
always
seats
got
for
some,
little,
yeah,
everyone.
we
little
always had
gifts and
great
the run of
favors.
show. I would keep the invitations. I still have some probably because they were so beautifully done and nice letterpress, just beautiful.
So you transitioned from working as a former creative director at Bridal Guide to the contributing home editor, covering trends in tableware and registries, to entrepreneurship as a fashion and prop stylist and bridal market editor. Can you
Right.
share what motivated these pivots?
I think after doing Bridal, it's really grueling. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved the travel, even with Weddings by the Ritz-Carlton. They really went to town and spent a lot of money on shoots, which was great. But things happen. People leave and magazines get canceled and everything. So at the time, I guess they changed focus and decided to do something in-house with Weddings by the Ritz-Carlton. It was a good time to kind of like wean myself off bridal and into props and home decor, which is something that also just came up, that there was an opening for a home design editor at Bridal Guide. So I had left Bridal Guide. I had been doing the fashion as a freelancer for other magazines, and then also came on as the contributing home editor, which I loved doing those shoots. It was sort of like going to a new market for tableware. So that was exciting. It was like the fashion week of tableware. I got very excited to see what's new in tableware and table design. I just sort of like doing that more. Or let's just say I liked doing something new, just keeping it fresh. I like the transition. So I would do those home design pages for Bridal Guide. And at the same time, I was also pursuing prop styling, which is even a different type of work because I was working for different magazines and hired just by the day or for 2 days to do food shoots or product shoots. It's mostly food and product in the prop styling world that I was doing. So I got a chance to meet people at lots of different magazines at that time. And I never looked back. I think I reached the top. I wasn't interested in going to find a bigger name magazine or a better magazine. I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in doing something new. And while I was at Bridal Guide, I worked with the home editors who went to the tabletop market. We're out of the office, going to events. And I was like, that looks like a lot of fun. So I decided, let me try that too. And luckily, my connections at Bridal Guide enabled me to just pivot right there.
As
So,
well as your skill set. You honed your skill set so that
yeah.
you really were just pivoting and getting new subject matter. really
Right.
is
I
what
was
it
able
was.
to just switch departments
Yeah.
basically, you know?
Right, you knew how to do the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
You just then morphed into all these other great offshoots, right? And
Right. It's
and
all
and
related. Yeah,
and stepping
definitely.
right into it, right? The learning curve, not
Was
there in that
minimal.
respect.
Yeah,
Minimal.
it
Sure.
was minimal because I wasn't starting from scratch.
Right.
I did reach out to a agent for freelance work. I had a portfolio. She accepted me on the spot and was able to book me on jobs with brands like Coach and Brooks Brothers or magazines like Essence and People and Real Simple. And there's so many magazines that I don't even know how many of these exist anymore, but I was busy all the time. Now magazines, they exist in digital form, most of them, and they're still doing shoots, but it's very different. The things I get hired for now are mostly food related, and they're usually food brands. They're not recipe stories per se, but sometimes I am doing food and cooking. The last big job I did was for a cheese brand, and I was making pastas and all kinds of salads and deviled eggs. I do both food and prop styling, like cheese and coffee and chocolate and caviar. There's just a lot of food brand work now. And most of it is for social media. So I'll see my work pop up on Instagram all the time.
Back in the print days, there were deadlines where the issue had to be done and had to go to the printers. All of this process in order for it to be on the shelves at the newsstand when it was
Yes.
supposed to be. Now, even if these magazines exist online, it's like rolling deadlines. They're not part of the thematic,
Well, they
you
they
know,
do have a schedule. I'm sure they have certain
sure.
deadlines and schedules the
But
same
like
way.
that
But yes,
spring
it's true.
issue.
They roll out content like daily.
Certain editions of the magazine that would come out the spring or the ones that would follow right after market. As we said, we transitioned out of that. But now I have to imagine every single person sitting at that runway show has got their phone up and they're either
Yes.
sending it out
Oh,
live
right.
or
Exactly.
when you would have to wait to see those photos, you'd have to wait to see the clips. We would then process our podcast and they would come out later that month. Now it's instantaneous.
That's true. And I
Instantaneous.
remember when TikTok was starting, we were like, wow, what are you doing? Where is that? Where's that going? It was interesting to learn as new ways of doing content kept rolling out right before our eyes. And we were there, even though I'm still working on a print magazine, Bridal Guide, it still exists. It's probably the only one that still comes out in print. The others are all gone, but
Yeah.
it's much, much smaller. It's a fraction of the size it used to be.
Brides are being inspired
They're
by
everything else.
Pinterest and Instagram
And we both
Exactly.
and other social channels.
we mentioned, Diane, the days where she used to sit and sketch
Yes,
the
that was
runway
so
show.
great. I used to do that too. I saw what she was doing and I just did it like her. It helps you remember when you put pen to paper, and I'm still like that. I still keep an analog planner because I need to write things down. The digital space doesn't always do it for me as far as calendars go. But even when I'm doing a photo shoot, I sketch out a thumbnail. I need to like put things in place. Some people do mock-ups in Photoshop where they're using real stuff, but I like my sketches. I can interpret what they mean and I can see it through because of how I've planned it spatially.
And is that what
With
you teach as well? When you teach this, do you teach that method?
Well, I do. I actually like to say that it helps, but not everybody considers themselves able to draw, even though a thumbnail sketch is not that big a deal. But there's something about the hand to paper that still works best for me, even though a lot of mock-ups that I see and that I get from other clients, they just take swipe pictures off Instagram and they say, we want it to look like this. They're not making things up out of their head anymore.
Right,
It's
right.
got to
Let's
be
do what
something
they're
that's,
doing. Yeah.
we know this works, so let's do
Right,
this.
right,
But
right.
maybe change the colors or maybe change
Mhm.
the angle slightly. Of course, the end result will always look very different, but the inspiration starts with something that's been done before.
Well, I adapt the same learning style from hands to paper, and I like it, and I don't think that's ever going to change. Talking about learning and teaching, another pivot of yours was becoming an educator. You've taught at Fashion Institute of Technology, where I am a
Right?
graduate of.
Oh,
And
yes.
what do you enjoy most about teaching and
Yeah.
mentoring aspiring stylists?
The FIT class happened exactly when I left full time at Bridal Guide. I started teaching in 2007, and that was in the photography department. And it was wonderful. We did shoots all semester. I really brought them through all the ropes of styling jobs and how to prepare. It was eye opening for them because they all came in as high school kids and they were like, oh, I just like to do skateboarders or people on the street. So the idea of planning a photo shoot with products was all new to them. And I had a really great time doing that. And I taught it for about 9 years there, like once or twice a year, or sometimes 2 sessions in a semester, but big 15-week classes. And interestingly, I just submitted a course for the 2026 spring semester. I'm waiting to hear about it, but it went in and approved by the college. Now it's up in the SUNY bureaucracy, getting passed around to see if that will be added into the curriculum at FIT. So I may be back there soon.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that'll be fun. When FIT ended, it kind of trickled out, sort of like, we don't want you anymore thing, which is fine because something brings something new into your life. So I started the prop styling experience where I started teaching one-on-one with people that were interested in learning hands-on and like to learn in a one-on-one kind of situation where they would come here to me and millions of props and things and backdrops and photography equipment and great light. And we would do photo shoots here and learn about the business and just talk about how to get into it. Some of my students went on to become really great stylists and they're doing well. Others have a product and wanted to take their own pictures, have a shop, and they wanted to promote their shop. Some are floral designers. I do a course through the New York Botanic Gardens on styling flowers for photography, geared towards people who want to take their own pictures of their arrangements. So I started just coming up with topics and breaking down the how-to of styling and also the business. So I was doing the one-on-ones, and then I started doing one-on-ones by Zoom, kind of just like this online. And then during the pandemic, it was like, you got to sink or swim here. So I started teaching group classes online, and that took off, and I did really well with that. And I'm still doing some classes online, not as much. The pandemic was great because I had a captive audience. Nobody was doing anything else. So I had a lot of repeat students that took like every single class. Now I've updated them. I've added new photos as I shoot new things. So everything's constantly changing. But what came out of the whole thing, and the same thing happened right during the pandemic, was working on my book.
Okay, well, let's show everybody your book.
Yes, thank you.
This is a fantastic resource. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind writing it.
Yes, from teaching at FIT, I had to really break down my materials into action steps on how to do everything. What I was teaching, which was totally my own, I was given a syllabus that I marginally followed and changed almost completely. So it was all things I've been writing year after year and updating and fine tuning. And even when I did get the opportunity to put out a book, I still had to rewrite it so that the layperson could understand it. Not everybody knows the lingo, so I had to make sure I was being very clear. And I was excited to share things that people wouldn't have even thought about or known about, because now there's the job of stylist, but then there is styling for everyone in every area, because everything is visual. So people think, well, I'm styling and I'm doing things just to show on Instagram, but I wanted to tell them how they can go beyond Instagram, what is available, what opportunities there are. And it could be anything from visual merchandising to working in-house at a company and doing styling, which some of my students are doing. It could be just working for your own brand, making your own shots, because let's say you make pottery and you need to just shoot a constant changing of your stock and your inventory. It's needed everywhere now. It used to be something that only certain people did, but now it's reaching far and wide. And I think people from all over the world are getting their hands on my book. It's a niche thing, and I hope I get an opportunity to revise it and update it, because of course things are constantly changing. So
I love flea markets and estate sales. Where do you discover wonderful collections?
just everywhere, mostly when I travel, because you're seeing things that you don't see at home. New York City has some great stuff,
Yeah.
but it's expensive and it's not as great as being out in the countryside somewhere in some other state, in some little town, and going to somebody's yard sale or tag sale and seeing something that you've never seen before. I think that's the most fun. Of course, a lot of things that you have to use in prop styling for a client have to be contemporary. So there's a lot of buying things online. I buy what I like and I buy what I see around. I love handmade ceramics.
Are there any destinations that you regularly go to?
I have some favorite shops in Newport, Rhode Island. I think New England is great for shopping. I found a wonderful shop in Camden, Maine. But if you really want deals, you want to go to flea markets. I was in Mexico and I went to the flea markets there and bought some handmade crafts, woven baskets and ceramics that are local and Mexican glass, and textiles were beautiful. So I got a few things there. Some people travel with an empty suitcase because they know they're going to be shopping. Or some people that do earn their living by selling items from France, they go there and they ship a container back. Once in a while, we'll treat myself to something from ABC Carpet and Home because everything there is just so beautiful, but it's very expensive. But
Do you go out with a list? Like, do you have a list of things that you're in
things
search
I'm
of?
looking for, yeah, sometimes I'm looking for a specific thing and I'll keep my eyes open for it. But if you're going into these big, massive markets, you never know what you're going to find. Right now, I would love to find a vintage pepper mill with the crank on top, like a wooden one that's old. I know they make them new, but I would love to find an old one. I don't see the ones with the crank top
All right, I'm on
very
it.
often.
I'm on it.
You're on it.
I'm
Okay.
looking to
Holly's
yeah.
going to
Maybe you
find
have
you one.
So,
Okay,
Robin,
well,
can you share some tips on how to transform home spaces for
mhm.
someone who wants to showcase their collectibles
Oh,
beautifully?
yeah. I think everybody has a little something that they like to collect. My favorite like little collection is I love collecting birds. So I have bird figurines, a collection of things that I got from my mother that I had when I was young, and I add to it if I see something along the way. Of course, now my husband's like tapping me whenever we're in store. He's like, "Look, birds, birds." And I'm like, "Nah, I don't like those." It has to call out to me. So I think if you have a collection, something specific that you want to showcase, it's nice to have either a console or a shelf space or a cabinet where you can put things in or you can rearrange things. It doesn't have to stay that way, but as you add to your collection, you can add in and move things around. I always feel like you should decorate with things that you love, interesting things. You can go to Home Goods and furnish your whole house, but it's not anything that shows your personality. I check out Home Goods all the time when I
Right.
can.
You
But
go to someone else's house and see all the same stuff that you bought in their house.
exactly. So when you travel, what I like to buy is something that reminds me of my travels. So even if it's art or if it's a rug or if it's pillows, Mexico had all of that. It was amazing.
Probably appreciate the craftsmanship behind the products that these
Yes.
designers and artists, local artists, are making, and then to adorn your home with them. Not only is it a memory of their travels, but it's something that they love, whether it be something
Right.
with color or whether it be a showcase piece or part of a collection.
Right.
I think that people need to tap into what they love
Right.
and then treat themselves to it. I want to move on to another pivot of yours because I want to know how you and your husband started performing music together.
He is a guitar player, and I played guitar since I'm 12. He was playing in a band, and I knew those people, and I met him through them. Throughout the 90s, we were doing little shows together and playing. We always sang harmony. We loved singing together. We were both playing and singing. And then when we had my son, we kind of like stopped doing everything because the focus was on him. My son's grown up now, living on his own and working for the Mets in Florida. And we were like, hey, let's get back to this. We found this little restaurant in the village we heard about that had performers like every night. And we were like, hey, what have we got to lose? Let's do this. We had a great time. We did 2 shows, and then that restaurant closed down. So I'm very sad that we can't go back to that place. It felt like home. We got so many friends to come there, and it was really great. So now we're kind of like, what do we do now? So that's where we are with that. My husband's written some songs and recorded them. It's just a fun thing to do. It's something that we love to do together.
That's wonderful. So what's
Yeah.
next for Robin?
Well,
What can we look forward to seeing from Robin
Yes.
Zachary?
I'm hoping to get the online classes going again because so many people have been asking for it. I'm thinking about the format for another book or books. I would like to do it a little differently so it was not such a monumental project, that maybe smaller books on different topics would be the way to go. And I just love teaching, continuing teaching and doing the prop styling jobs as they come up and things that interest me. Doing more food styling, I've always done a little bit of, and I'd love to do more. Going back to the free class that really introduces my book, I think I'm going to be doing that throughout August as much as I can. And then launching some of the other classes in the fall. They're all new and updated. So definitely, even if somebody's taken them before, there's new stuff in there. So
That's fantastic.
That's great. And I love the fact that your son really, truly followed his dreams into
yes.
his career. I just smile when I look at his trajectory in doing that. So
I know
that's fantastic.
from starting from 6 years old, he knew what he wanted to
and
do.
then I remember he had that spot where he got to call a play and been in the
Yes.
booth, and
Right.
you
Then he
know, he was
started
so
writing.
young then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Writing, podcasting, just playing his cards right until somebody upstairs noticed him and
Right. And
brought him in.
his career at QU, right? He was on the air there.
Yes, that's right.
and
He
doing
did all the
that.
communications, all of the TV and radio and everything that was offered. What a great school that both
Yeah.
of our sons went to,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
is wonderful. And yeah, he got his start there, and then really things took off for him. He's happy, and hopefully they'll keep him forever and just promote him up the ranks. So
Right. Like they do the ball players.
There is nothing like being in your happy place. And we can tell you're in yours, we're in ours, your son is in his. And that's all we wish for, right?
yes, that's right. That's all you can hope for in life, that you do something that makes you happy and that makes you want to wake up every day and do it. The days of working at a job, a physical job, I did that for many, many years. And I feel like I don't look back. I'm not looking for that. I like regular work with regular clients. That's something really nice to do. But the idea of having your day be different every single day is, I think, the most exciting thing.
Yeah. And being
And-
in charge of that.
Yes,
Instead of
and-
having someone else be in charge of that.
Right. Making your own schedule, deciding you want to work at night instead of during the day and do something fun during the day. I mean, it's all up to us and all entrepreneurs. I think that's the thing that grabs everybody. Is like, I want to make my own schedule. You have to worry about how you're going to make money come in. But still, I think it's more important than money is to have pleasure in your life.
We couldn't agree more, because all the money in the world's not going to buy you that. And I always harken back. I look at the marinas and all the boats in the slips, because everyone's got to work so hard to earn those boats, but yet they're not out on the boat enjoying themselves. So if you've got a boat, it shouldn't be in the slip. And enjoy that.
Well, thank you
That's right.
so much, Robin, for
Yeah.
sharing your story, everything that you've been doing. And we can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you so much for having me.
You need to find a new spot to play music so we can come see you.
I know. Well, maybe you know of one around you.
Well, we'll work
We
on
travel.
that. We'll work on
Oh,
that.
that's a good idea.
We'll work
Yeah.
on that.
That
for
would
you.
be
I know.
phenomenal. That would
Yeah.
be fun.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh,
We
you're
really-
so
we really
welcome.
do
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
What I loved about our talk with Robin is how your path from working at a publication can be the beginnings of a freelance career.
Her education in college, her direction of what she wanted to do, allowed her to step into so many varied roles, yet based everything on what she knew at her core, right? To have this design sense, to be able to look at objects and see beyond what they are and how she can utilize them or how they might look. That's understanding light and shadow and perspective and balance. All of those things go into how she can look at something and visualize how that might be used in what she does. So.
Well, it's also kind of cool, especially in the food space. It is so relatable to the tabletop and home industries. After you get married, you set up a home, and that becomes a whole other realm of design and style and collections and appreciation for nice things.
And I think one of the things that one learns from someone like Robin when you take her courses, it's those tricks of the trade that only people who really have done this know and understand. And those are the things that become invaluable in terms of ultimately how your work will be perceived and looked at and photographed.
There is so much
There's
that goes
a lot.
on.
It's not just putting something down.
No, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and it is in the details. So having also the right lighting, having the right prop,
and someone who knows what to do with that light.
and also how it's received.
Anyone can buy the tools, but it's knowing what to do with them and how
where
they
to
come
put
together.
Correct. That's really important. I was thinking about, as she was giving some tips and advice on how you can showcase your collections and your beautiful things. In our studio right here where we are is this fabulous bookcase. We have some antique toys from when my father was growing up. I love all of the little picture frames, which I haven't bought little picture frames in years. And I don't want to even change the photographs that I decided to feature in these frames.
Maybe it's time for you to buy some more small picture frames.
I have a bowling pin. I have some of Lindsay's art. Robin mentioned how much she loves ceramics. That's Lindsay's craft.
When we bought this house and we came down here, this is in the lower level of our home. We walked in and we saw these bookcases, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bookcases that are attached to the wall, built in. I think most people that were moving in here would probably have torn these out. I think because
that would be crazy for us.
Because this
perfect.
is a lower level, and you might not use this all the time, and it may just kind of become a place where people might just store things on. But that's not what this is, and we spend so much time down here.
It gives me
that
so much
to look
joy.
at all of our stuff.
I'm looking at this old planters.
We're teasing people. I think
Yeah,
we'll
know.
have to do
We
one
will.
episode.
We're going to do a show and tell.
Where it's going to be just what's on the bookcases.
But wait,
because it all has stories.
But I have this planter's cookie jar. It's a glass jar with the old branding on it in yellow, but it's full of matchbooks that I've collected probably, goodness, over 40 years of collecting matchbooks. I also have a collection of menus.
I just grabbed matchbooks from Russian Tea Room.
You did. And I was thinking about when Robin mentioned France. Well, Alex just went to the markets and he came home with these 3 beautiful watercolor note cards. And I said, how am I going to showcase them? And I ordered a custom frame. And I love it. I love walking into my kitchen every day, and it is a reminder of the gift our son gave us, but also of things I love because the art that he purchased are things I love, including a sunflower. I think surrounding yourself with beautiful things is wonderful. I think styling.
That's what I've done. That's why I married you.
Oh, goodness, such a charmer. Can we show everybody Robin's book up close?
Sure.
Because I did show it during the episode, but I would like to zoom in, and there it is. And the book is called Styling Beyond Instagram.
So for those just listening, we're showing the cover of the book on YouTube.
And it's Take Your Prop Styling Skills from the Square to the Street. And we will have a link in the show notes for you to be able to purchase it and to be inspired, whether you want to become a stylist or just be inspired on how you can create your space and your surroundings. So we're so grateful that Robin joined us today because it felt like yesterday that we were in New York City.
We could have done one episode just on
Reminiscing about
Wedding Podcast
Network
Wedding Podcast
and Bridal
Network.
Market.
And bridal market.
and everything wedding. But we've all moved on, and I am
And taken all of that and shaped that and brought that along into what we do now.
It's really cool how she pivoted from a traditional career for a wedding magazine to becoming a freelancer and entering the world of entrepreneurship, to becoming an educator at FIT, to creating her own prop styling course, an experience workshop, and then now becoming an author. How fantastic is that? Visit the
This
show
is
notes
real
for
life.
all of these links.
Real life.
What?
Real life. And I think the best thing for me about what Robin said is the fact, again, living an entrepreneurial lifestyle allows you to shape your days and your weeks and your months so that part of your days, your weeks, and your months is enjoying the life that you've chosen to live.
That
So,
freedom is priceless.
without a doubt. Without a doubt. Thanks again to Robin for being our guest today on Between Over and Next. And thank you to all of you for listening and watching. And we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Between Over and Next. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it meaningful and insightful.
If you value it to be worthwhile, please share it with your friends and family.
We would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to write a review for us. Your feedback will help us continue to create content that resonates with you.
And don't forget, in the show notes, you can find all the relevant links mentioned in this episode, from accessing free downloads to visiting our website and more.
If you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Simply send us an email. Our email address is hello@hollyandrobert.com. We're always excited to connect with our listeners.
So until next time, thank you again for joining us on Between Over and Next.
Thank you for listening to Between Over and Next, the podcast that navigates the twists and turns of life with courage, laughter, and a whole lot of inspiration. Tune in every Tuesday to hang out with Holli and Robert on your favorite podcast platform. Visit hollyandrobert.com and follow them on social media to ignite your passion and fuel your dreams.